When you want your spring break to feel like... and your kids' pool day to feel like... and your hotel bed to feel like... ooh, and room service to feel like... because at Hilton, hospitality feels like...
Your cabana's ready. Would you like fresh towels?
It matters where you stay. Book now at Hilton.com. Hilton, for the stay.
Sunday morning. Well, like every Sunday, Governor David Paterson, well, he's on the air with us to find out what's going on in the city, the state, the country, and the world. I mean, and the solar system.
I love the solar system, John.
Governor, what do you have in mind this morning?
Well, there was an article that came through the AP on Thursday in which a company that was helping the United States target the areas that we wanted to hit in Iran, that their building has been disabled. And disabled was kind of a code word for the fact that apparently somebody used AI to stop all of the electronic activity from the building to the company. And that opens up a door. And a couple of people spoke on the record about it, that as we ran over Iran in 12 minutes, as President Trump said, I mean, he's been really tongue-in-cheek about this whole thing for the last few days, but he's basically right that the important elements to Iran being in a war have been dismantled by the United States. But I think we've got to start thinking about the other ways that smaller countries can impede our progress and disable a lot of the technology that we developed.
Well, that is correct. You know what I'm concerned about, Governor? That's true in technology, but the whole art of war has changed in the last 10 years. This drone situation is dangerous.
Exactly. And it's kind of the same thing. It's a new technology that the war came before we've got it under control.
So what do we do?
Well, I think my suggestion, and coming from me, this might be kind of surprising. We may not know exactly who put the technology in some of these different places, but we know who sponsored it. So I think there's no reason to let up on Iran or any of these other countries that have wreaked havoc in our midst. And I think that would open the door for a situation where we control the technology, not them.
Understood. But it seems like even the Ukraine has technology that's building like 10,000 drones a month.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Now, fortunately, we have a much better relationship with them. And fortunately, there are no secrets per se between us and them because, countries work with you and then they're doing other things you don't know about. But I think this is just something here on Sunday morning for us to keep an eye on as the weeks and months progress, that it's not just Iran. We can take care of Iran, but it's also a whole lot of other interests antagonistic to our interests who are finding highly developed technical ways to impose their wishes on our reality.
Understood. Well, let's come back to New York City, New York State. New York City, well, we may have a problem. Moody's is starting to shake in their boots a little bit about New York City bonds. What do you think?
I think that's a real problem, and particularly for New York City. The state has, I wouldn't say other options as much as I would say other areas that they can utilize to try to mitigate a large budget. I was able to do it myself when I was there. Cities in a much more difficult situation. They are one step away, from going on the list, as they say. And no one seems to be talking as if that's the case. Certainly not Mayor Mamdani. Governor Hochul has pointed it out. And I think that that the legislative leaders know that this is going on, but it's something that they better get together and really work something out, or we could be sitting around in the middle of June wondering why the budget isn't passed.
Understood. The state. What do you think of the state? You think they have things under control?
Well, it's interesting because Governor Hochul announced on Wednesday of this past week that we cannot make the payments that were agreed upon in legislation involving environmental justice and the right way to keep the environment safe. She admitted that New York will not have the money at that point to pay that off. Now, this was a good time for her to mention it because she's still got 3 or 4 years to deal with it, assuming that she gets reelected. But I think it was an honest assessment of what's actually going on, as opposed to, when something is really not going to come due for 3 or 4 years and the executive says, we're working on it. She didn't say we're working on it. She said, as of right now, we can't pay it. So I thought that was real honest assessment of the situation. But inevitably, the Republicans and the Democrats, they're the ones that passed the legislation in the first place and was signed by the governor at that time. They're going to have to recognize that some sacrifices need to be made. And I wasn't always very successful getting sacrifices out of the legislature. And when something like this comes up, Governor Hochul or whoever's governor at that time may face that same problem.
Understood. Anything else you want to tell the people on a Sunday morning?
Just that right now, I think, is still a kind of tenuous period. We really demonstrated, I think, globally where we are with our detractors and our enemies at this particular point. And I think that we just have to keep the foot on the gas and not get too worked up over the appearance that the war is totally over and we don't have to worry anymore. I think the war will be over soon, and I think we should all just wait for that to happen. And behind President Trump, we're, I think, in a very position to make it happen. Well,
David Paterson, thank you so much for coming on, and God bless you, God bless America, and thank you for continuing to stay involved and giving people your feelings.
Well, thank you, John.
It's tax season, and at LifeLock, we know you're tired of numbers. But here's a big one you need to hear. Billions. That's the amount of money in refunds the IRS has flagged for possible identity fraud. Now here's another big number, 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it guaranteed. One last big number, save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast for the threats you can't control. Terms apply.